Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Comic Multiverse, where we talk with creators from the major publishers, and where we also like to support those independent creators who are doing crowdfunding projects, like we feature every Saturday at noon on over on Comic Box. But with me today is Patrick Coyle. He is getting ready to kick off, I believe, is his second Kickstarter for his series. If he can correct me, but let me bring him in and introduce or bring him in, and we can find out about him. And he can correct me about anything I said that was wrong.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Chad. It's actually this will be my third Kickstarter.
Okay.
But it is the second issue of a 6-issue series. So you're not wrong.
Okay, that was what was kind of confusing me.
It is. Yeah. It's confusing for a lot of people, unfortunately. I should have thought that through a little better.
So before we get talking about your book itself, tell me your origin story, both as a comic reader and as a creator.
Sure. As a creator and a reader, probably started around the same time. I was 8 or 9, and I remember, when I was a kid, we still had spinner racks like these in drugstores and grocery stores, and you could get comics pretty much everywhere because that's how old I am. But so when I would get sick, someone would come visit, usually a relative, and they bring a stack of comics. And I remember getting like a Batman and a Spider-Man and a couple other comics. But the big gateway one for me was Raiders of the Lost Ark. So when that movie came out, I picked up the Marvel adaptation, which was written by Walter Simonson and drawn by John Buscema. And I still have my copy of it, but the cover barely hangs on anymore. Like, I read that thing so many times because I love the movie. And at the time, we didn't have streaming, right? So you had to relive it as any way you could. So I started making my own comics around the same time, and I started picking up more and more comics as a result of getting these few comics the first time that I remember, anyways, being sick and getting these and reading them in bed.
Nice. So let's hop right into it. Tell me a little bit about Bixby Grant. What is it about, and what were the inspirations for it?
So I love film noir. I love detective novels and movies. I also love, as we just mentioned, I love Indiana Jones. I love that kind of World War II era, and even going back a little further. I also love monsters. I love kind of light horror, I would say. I don't love like splatter horror, but I love, slasher movies, and I love jump scares, and I love creatures and that kind of fun stuff, the universal monsters, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of took a bunch of those concepts and mushed them together to kind of create Bixby Grant. At the time I created him, which was about 30 years ago, the Great Lakes Avengers had just made their first appearance. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So anyways, Mr. Immortal was one of those characters in the original John Byrne appearance. And I liked that his power was just, he couldn't die. Like, he could fall off a roof and crack his bones back into place, and he's off about his business. And so I started thinking about, well, who else could do that? And for some reason, a mummy kind of worked for me. And I thought, okay, well, what would this mummy do? And at first, he was going to be like an adventurer, like Indiana Jones. But then when I put the hat on and I gave him a couple of guns, he looked more like a pulp hero. And so he was going to be more like the Spirit or like the Shadow or something like that. But eventually I kind of settled on the Private Eye, because I could imagine making a comic series, where the issue to issue were different cases, as opposed to a bigger kind of, one and done. Like in the pulps, very often, especially the old radio series, they were just like villain of the week. And I didn't really want to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. My father introduced me to the Shadow, and
Nice.
So he purchased the cassette tapes with all like the different episodes.
Yep, I had that too. Orson Welles was the voice of the Shadow. It was great.
Yeah, and Blue Coal was the sponsor.
Oh, that's right. Clean coal, right?
Yeah. all the days of innocence.
Totally.
Yeah. So, tell us about this being the second issue. Correct.
Yep.
tell us about the story so far and where this one picks up.
Okay, sure. The first issue, so it's going to be a 6-issue series, like you mentioned. And the first issue that came out earlier this year kind of introduced the basic concept, which is it's Bixby Grant's birthday. He's 123 years old. He's pretty miserable. So every year on his birthday, he alludes to the fact that something tragic happened about 100 years ago, and that he takes like any snoop job he can just to kind of distract him on his birthday. He doesn't want to celebrate. He doesn't want people to wish him a happy birthday. He doesn't want cards. He doesn't want anything. He wants to be left alone. So he investigates a haunted warehouse, which it turns out there is a vampire squatting there. And there's also a poltergeist in this warehouse, and they unveil a ritualistic kind of cult murder in this warehouse. And that was just in the first issue. So the second issue picks up, and we start to find out that this is part of a pattern of killings that are going on in Harbor City, which is Bix's fictitious home. And there are 5 killings so far, and they are all people who have worked on the mayor's re-election campaign. There's this really corrupt mayor who's up for re-election, and so there's some sort of weirdness going on with these murders. And it also Bix takes it personally because this horrible event that happened in his past happened with his brother, who also owned these knives that are being used to murder everybody in these cult murders. So he's got a backstory that he doesn't want to deal with. And he's got a new sidekick whose name is Diego. He's a vampire who is kind of a loudmouth and kind of everything that Bix isn't. He kind of likes to, he is young, he's loud, he plays music, he is inquisitive, he is kind of boisterous and friendly. And he's definitely, the flip side of the coin from Bix, who's pretty grumpy and just wants to be left alone. So in this one, they start investigating the murders and trying to see like what the patterns are and who might have stolen these daggers from Bix back in the day.
So let's talk about the rest of the creative team. Who
Sure.
are you working with? Who are you working with, and how did you kind of get connected with them?
Sure. So we have actually 2 stories in the comic. There's the main Bixby Grant story, and then there's a backup story, which features characters from the world of Bixby Grant, which I'll talk about in a second. But for the main story, the creative team is Gonzalo Martínez on line art. He is a Chilean artist that I met through Geraldo Borges, who is also a penciler. He did some work on Nightwing last year for DC, and he's done some work for Image. He's a fantastic artist, but he's really super connected with a bunch of people down in South America. And when I was looking for an artist, I reached out to him and he said, "Hey, I've got Gonzalo, who I think would be a good fit for this." So he hooked us up. And Geraldo, actually, it was like a friend of a friend of a friend led me to Gonzalo. And that was 3 years ago. Now we're still working together. It's been a really good collaboration, and he's a wonderful storyteller. On color is a guy named Arthur Hesli, who I believe lives in Sao Paulo, or he's in Brazil anyways. He's been lately doing a lot of work for Marvel, for Thunderbolts and Midnight Suns and a whole bunch of great stuff. He's fantastic. He created kind of a neo-noir style coloring, kind of like Greg Smallwood had in Human Target. And it really makes the pages really pop and look pretty unique. And I'm really, really happy about that. Heather Antos is our editor. She's a former Marvel editor. She's the co-creator of Gwenpool. She also works at IDW now and works on their Star Trek and other licensed properties. She is phenomenal. She's been my editor on all 3 issues so far. And she really helps me hone the story and get rid of the stuff that doesn't belong and really make things work. On the backup story, like I mentioned, that's called Zombie Town. And that is featuring a detective on the Harbor City Police Force who is looking for her father who disappeared 20 years ago. And all signs point to him being last seen in the section of Harbor City known as Zombie Town, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's 5 square blocks of the city that's been fenced off due to a zombie outbreak several years ago. They couldn't be bothered with getting rid of the zombies, so they just kind of fenced it off. We're like, we're not going to deal with this. So this detective has to go into Zombie Town to find her what happened to her father. That section of that short story is drawn, inked, and colored by Gonzalo Ruggieri, who's another South American artist who's fantastic. He's done some work for Image and Dynamite and a couple other international publishers as well. And everyone's just been a dream to work with. We do have a couple of variant covers too. And we've got a variant cover from Dean Kotz, who has done some work for Dynamite. He did the James Bond series a couple of years ago. He did the Butcher in Paris series for Dark Horse. He did our pulp variant, what I call the pulp action variant, where Bix always has his two guns and he's engaging with some villain of some sort. And then Megan Huang did our Zombie Town cover. She's also worked a lot for IDW and a little bit for DC. She's done some Wonder Woman covers, Star Trek, and Star Wars. So it's just been a colossally wonderful kind of all-star team that I'm very privileged to work with.
So tell me about kind of the collaboration process between you and the artist. I mean, is it? How is it smooth? Is it what is that kind of like working with the artist?
Well, at first you kind of feeling each other out. It's like being on a blind date almost at first. Like you can see their portfolio and like you would see someone's, profile online, but you don't really know what they're like or how they're going to react to the script or any of that kind of thing. So you having interviewed a ton of people have probably heard this a lot, but once you get to know them a little bit, you get a sense for what they're good at and you can start to write to that. Gonzalo Martínez, for instance, used to be a architect before he became a cartoonist, and he's really good at drawing interiors and vehicles and cityscapes and all kinds of things that a lot of artists like myself are not very good at. He also happens to be a very good cartoonist with people and creatures and things, but I know that if I say, "Oh, I want you to draw this warehouse with this, and this," he's going to get it spot on. Not that all artists don't try, but he's really, really good at that kind of stuff. So we did a 7 or 8 page kind of tryout a couple of years ago where I paid him for his time so that, he's not going to just do work for free. I don't expect that of anybody. And I gave him a short script that we turned into kind of a backup story that we used in the first graphic novel. And once I could see, what he could do with what I turned over, you build a level of trust with them and you feel really comfortable that, okay, what I have in my head isn't necessarily what's going to be on the page. It's probably going to be better because I now know what Gonzalo can do and what he's going to bring back to me. So if he has any questions, we're in different time zones and clearly on different continents. So it's not like we can just get together and chat. But sometimes we'll shoot some ideas back and forth, either via text or via email. But by and large, honestly, he'll send me pretty tight layouts that are usually pretty spot on. And after we did the first one together, he started coming back with suggestions on layout and panel numbers and things like that to make things work better. And everything he suggested has made the comic way, way better. So it's been really, really, I would say it's been really smooth, but there is a small learning curve whenever you work with somebody new.
Okay. So that's kind of the answer I expected, but I just wanted to hear that, how your experience was. So.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you do hear some nightmares of people working with new collaborators and it doesn't work out. And I've been really, really lucky that for the last few years, both the Gonzalos have been fantastic. Arthur has been wonderful. Heather keeps the trains running as well as keeping the scripts really tight. So it's been kind of a dream operation for me.
So this being not your first Kickstarter experience, what has been your experience with crowdfunding and doing this to fund your project?
Sure. My first one, which I did in 2022, for better or for worse, went really well, and it kind of spoiled me. So right out of the gate, I now expect everything to go well. And so when the second one came, I was like, "Oh, I'll be funded in like a day." which is what happened the first time. And then the second one was like, no, we'll show you how this goes. This is going to take 4 weeks. So the second one was a little more fits and stops, and but it did get funded, and we eventually got over, and in fact got a couple of stretch goals. So both of them have been very successful, but it's also taught me, don't count your chickens kind of thing. Like, just because you had a successful one the first time doesn't mean you can rest on your laurels for the second one. So you really have to pay attention to the trends and watch what the other successful campaigns are doing. You don't have to copy it verbatim, but you can learn a lot by just really paying attention. It's really as simple as that. You've got a lot of people hitting you up saying, hey, I'll help you promote your Kickstarter. I'll help you do this. You just give us $500. But
oh, that's the part I'm missing.
Wait,
I can do this for free.
Did you not get my PayPal?
No, I did not. Sorry.
No, I'm talking about those hucksters. You know who I'm talking about. The people who DM you on the social media saying, all you got to do is, hit me up with the Venmo, and I'll get you all the publicity you could possibly want. And then someone you've never heard of, and you go to their profile, and all it does is change their profile picture every couple of months.
Well, I know that you are working with Melissa at Don't Hide, and she's really good, and at helping getting you publicity, and has been very helpful with getting interviews like this set up with you.
Oh yeah, so. Melissa's fantastic. I worked with her on the first one, and it went really well. Of course, I kind of came back to comics later in life. Like, I had a small publisher about 20 years ago. I wasn't publishing my own stuff, but then as I got older, I'm like, I really got to get on the ball here. And if I'm going to do anything, I want to, really do it. So I do have a day job, like most of us in comics. But luckily it affords me the ability to hire people with special skills like Melissa to help me get the word out and not have to wait 12, 15 years to try and see even a modicum of success. So I'm very grateful for that. Obviously, I'm not paying my mortgage with Bix, but I am having a ton of fun and getting to talk to great people like you.
Well, I mean, I think that's having fun is one of the best things. I mean, I'm sure if I was creative, that's why you're in it. It's that, you're having fun,
of course,
and you get those ideas out of your head.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, this has been something I've been dreaming about for 20, 25 years. So to actually finally get to be able to do it is really great.
So what advice would you have for a younger you? And how do you feel that you've grown as a writer in that time period?
I would have told myself to start writing every day. I think it took me a long time to get that this isn't just like, when the muse strikes, you'll have the perfect story. Like, it's a grind, man. You sit down, get in front of the laptop, and start cranking stuff out. Get the garbage out of the way. You're going to have to go through many drafts. You're going to have to be able to take legitimate criticism, work it back in, and just do it over and over and over again. That's the first thing. The second thing was I was kind of holding out until I was a better artist so I could draw my own comics. I went to school for illustration. I always thought I was going to draw my own comics. And I got busy with a career, and then I got married, and then I had kids. And every time I would sit down to draw,
that always happens.
Too rusty, right? So, yeah. So I had to if I could go back and just say to 20 years ago and say, look, give up the ghost on drawing. Just focus on getting this out the door. Write the stuff up, work with other people who are better than you, and will make you that much better. So that's kind of what ultimately has happened. I took the long road around to get there.
Now you said that this series is 6 issues. Do you have other stories you'd like to tell in this universe?
Yeah. Definitely. So the backup story, like I mentioned, called Zombie Town, takes place in the same universe. It's kind of like, how there's from the pages of Hellboy, like all the BPRD stuff and all the other offshoots. I've kind of trying to develop my own little Bixiverse. I just made that up. That's horrible. I got to workshop that. But but
Don't worry, nobody's watching.
but I want to. So I've got the. There's a lot of supporting characters who have appeared at these issues that I would love to have their own stories, and of course, I've got a laundry list of other undeveloped stories for Bixby Grant himself, which is to say, nothing of the 20 other properties that have nothing to do with Bixby Grant that I'd love to get up and running. But one step at a time.
Well, let's say that out of the blue, some publisher comes to you and said, we have this property, and you can do anything you want with it. And this could be, property or any of the major publishers. What do you have a story in any of those universes you'd like to tell?
Oh yeah, sure. I've got what I think is a good. Well, I wouldn't say great, but I'll say it's a decent Star Wars pitch.
I'm all ears. I love Star Wars, so
no, I'm not going to give this pitch out on the air because I want to keep it just in case. Like I know it'll never happen, but just in case.
It's 100 years before the Phantom Menace. No, I like the Acolyte, but that's just me.
Yeah, you know what? I enjoyed the Acolyte. I'm not going to lie. Do I think it was the best thing since Return of the Jedi? No. But I think it was a solid show that, could use a little polish, but I had no problems with it.
I like that they did something different. I mean, all Star Wars stories, for the most part, have been linear. This one actually tried to kind of, jump around and fill in gaps. And I think they hurt themselves by not kind of digging into the established High Republic stuff that's been come before.
Yes.
I think that hurt it a lot too. But again, we're not here to talk about that.
I can talk about that all night, though. Yeah.
But hey, next time I'll have you back and we'll just talk about that because
I love it. Let's do it. Yeah, no, I've got if DC called, I've got a Batman pitch. If Marvel called, I've got a Star Wars pitch. I've got a Captain America pitch. I've got a Doctor Strange pitch. Like I've got ideas for sure. But the phone's not ringing just yet.
Well, I'm sure that you're probably having more enjoyment getting your own stuff onto the page and telling your own story with your own properties.
Yeah, I mean, there are some creators that I've talked to who have worked for the big two, as well as done independent stuff, and they're like, just stick with your own stuff. Don't worry. All you'll do is work on like the next big event. I'm like, you're only saying that because you got to do that, and I've never gotten to do that. Like, even if it was the next big event, whatever it might be, whether it's I don't know. I'd still like to have that shot, but again, that's not why we're here.
Right. No, definitely not. So when is the campaign launched, and can you tell us a little bit about what you might be offering for people to back your project?
Yeah, absolutely. So the project launches on Tuesday, September 17th. It's going to launch at like 7 a.m. East Coast time. And did you ask about the rewards?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a stripped down campaign. I'm keeping it pretty simple. So we've got a digital indie comics bundle, which has 5 comics from predominantly other comic creators. And then you can get FANGS and Brimstone, which is the current series. Bixby Grant and Diego. This is number 1. You'll be able to get number 2, obviously, in this new campaign. You can also get, if you're new to the comic, you can get the back issue. You can also get the 72-page standalone graphic novel, which we have a couple different covers for. There's no real continuity. All the stories kind of take place in their own time. We say the stories say when they are, so you don't have to read one to the other. But obviously, this one is going to be issue 2 of this series, right? So the first reward is you can get issue 2 if you already have issue 1. We have an early bird special in which you can get all 3 covers for $20 off. So you can get the aforementioned, cover A by Gonzalo Martínez. You can get the Dean Kotz cover. You can get the Megan Huang cover, all for $20 off. You can also get the catch-up, the early bird catch-up, which is you would get issue 1, issue 2, and then also the 72-page graphic novel for I think that's also for $20 off. It's either 15 or 20. I apologize. I should have crib notes, but
No problem.
and then you can get all the books and all the covers for $150. So that if you're brand new to this and you're a completist, which some people are, you can get, there's 3 covers for each of the 3 issues.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the book or the campaign that maybe we haven't talked about?
Let's see. It's going to run for 30 days. You can also follow me on all of my socials. If you look up Bixby Grant, you'll find me. Hashtag Bixby Grant. And no, if you love independent comics, if you love Batman the Animated Series, if you love Hellboy, if you love the Spirit, if you love the Shadow, I think you might dig Bixby Grant and you should give it a shot.
Okay, nice. And are you doing any shows or just kind of doing the Kickstarter thing?
Right now, I'm just doing the Kickstarter. I will be doing some things live on my YouTube channel, which is called Patrick Sucks at Drawing, which I started a couple of years ago. And it originally started as kind of like a creative self-help channel where as I was trying to learn to draw again, I was just kind of chronicling that and having other people talk to me about it. But now it's going to be more of a Patrick Explains Comics type of thing, where I'm going to put a comic under the lens and explain it to my Gen Z daughter and see how if she can understand it. So, I'm going to start with like the comics that I grew up on, like Batman the Outsiders and all this kind of late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So that should be fun.
Well, I guess first off, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
As you start this new campaign, and we'll definitely be following and promoting it over on Comic Watch.
Awesome.
And if at any time there's anything you'd like to chat about, or maybe we just need to have a 5-hour-long discussion about Star Wars.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's live stream, baby. Star Wars live stream. Let's go.
It's the 24-hour Star Wars live stream.
Oh, man. That's something everyone's asking for.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was great to meet you, and hopefully we'll get to meet someday in person. And like I said, we'll be following the campaign every week over on Comic Watch, and be in touch. We'll be in touch, and let's chat again soon.
All right, awesome. Thanks again for having me. This has been a lot of fun chatting with you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
All right.